Okay, so welcome to day 10 of the IELTS Masterclass program. Yesterday, we started off with the listening module. So before we start today's session, I'm going to do a quick recap. Okay, so just to refresh whatever we did yesterday. Okay, so the listening module is the first test in your IELTS examination. This is divided into 4 parts or 4 sections, and each part has a specific audio clip. So in all, you listen to 4 separate audio clips. All right. The whole test goes on for 30 minutes, which means you will listen to all the 4 audio clips in the 30-minute duration. If you are a paper-based candidate, you will get extra 10 minutes to transfer your answers to a separate answer sheet. But again, it's only to transfer answers. During this time, you really will not be able to listen to any audio clip or something like that. So after 30 minutes, you get extra 10 minutes to transfer answers to a separate answer sheet. Whereas computer-based candidates will get only 30 minutes time. Your listening test will end as soon as the 30 minutes is over. All right. Now, yesterday I explained to you how or what kind of audio clips you listen to in each section or in each part, correct? So in part 1, you will listen to a dialogue and an everyday situation, or maybe like a transactional situation, a dialogue between a customer and a hotel manager, okay? Section 2 is a monologue where you will listen just to one person who shares information about something. Again, a very general everyday topic. For example, maybe a tour guide who is talking about a particular or a very popular museum in that town and talks about the different places in that museum itself. Section 3 and section 4 are a little more academic. Okay, so section 3 is always a conversation. You will listen to anywhere between 2 to 4 speakers. And here the conversations may be related to a certain assignment or a certain project on which the students or a professor are discussing with each other. Okay, and section 4 is a lecture or a speech, again a monologue, where you may listen to a professor or a student talking about a certain topic. For instance, like I gave you an example yesterday, evolution of computers. All right. So this is how your listening module is divided. Okay. As soon as you start your test, you will actually listen to a narrator who will give you the context of that particular audio clip that you're going to hear. Now, for sections 1, 2, and 3, after you listen to the narrator, you will get a 30 seconds interval to take a look at a certain set of questions. And the narrator will tell you how many questions you need to look at, or question what to question what. Okay. Now you need to quickly scan through it so that you know and you understand the context of the audio clip and you understand the flow or the sequence of the audio clip. Right now, after you finish that certain set of questions, after you finish listening to that audio, that part of the audio, again, the narrator jumps in and tells you that you have another 30 seconds or half a minute interval where you can check your previous answers and take a look at the next set of questions. All right. And obviously, you will know when part 1 gets over and part 2 begins. So you don't really have to worry. It is extremely clear. Okay, only for section 4, you will listen to the narrator once and you have only 130 seconds interval in the beginning, after which you will listen to all the audio clip for all the 10 questions at a time. Okay. Now, we have a few question types and we discussed a few question types yesterday itself. So you have completion questions where sentence completion, you have form completion, table completion, and then you have summary completion. Okay. So form complete, usually these question types, they are spread out through the listening module. Form completion specifically comes in section 1 or part 1. Okay, then we also looked at short answer questions, match the following, and then you have labeling a map or a plan, and multiple choice questions. Most of it you already have heard of because we have very similar question types even in the reading module, correct? Yesterday, we understood how to solve form completion, summary completion, and table completion. Okay, so that's what we did yesterday. And remember, completion question types, the format, the rules remain the same, which means you have the 3 instructions, no more than 1 word and or a number, 2 words and or a number, 3 words and or a number. And at the end of the day, they're just fill in the blanks. However, the format of each completion question type is slightly different. Okay, that's one thing you need to know. Otherwise, the way you solve it remains the same. Clear? Yes, everybody, if you have any doubts in this, please ask me in the chat. You can drop your question in the chat. Otherwise, just say yes if everything's clear so far. Okay, so for computer-based test, you will get you will be able to listen to the audio clip from your system, all right? And for paper-based candidates also, everybody will get a pair of headphones, so you don't have to worry about it, okay? Another thing that I would like to tell all of you is the recording for the listening module is going to be played only once. You will not be able to go back and listen to it again, okay? Yeah. Anybody else, any doubts, any questions? If yes, let's move on. Okay, everything's okay, let's move on. So today we are going to look at sentence completion, short answer questions, and match the following. My only concern is you should be able to understand the different question types and how to approach, how to understand or how to listen to each and every word that is said in the audio clip, because in the 30 minutes time, you need to be extremely focused, so focused that you should really not know what's happening around you. Because the moment you miss even like one answer, you will end up missing a couple of subsequent answers, all right? So don't get distracted no matter what, all right? And another thing, for completion question types and short answer question types especially, please focus on your spellings, okay? Let's move on. Let's start with sentence completion. Okay. Sentence completion is nothing but incomplete sentences, individual sentences with where you have to fill in the blanks, or this is like a gap fill question type. Again, you have instructions and you have to read the instructions, understand the instructions, and follow the audio clip. Remember, if in the audio clip, the answer is in plural form, please write it in the plural form. If it is in singular, write it in the singular form. Do not change the format of the words you listen to in the audio clip. Write it as it is. Okay. However, in your questions, your question statements will obviously be paraphrased, or you will have more synonyms. You have to understand the question and accordingly fill in your answers. Is it clear? Any doubts, any questions? Yeah. Okay, great. So now let us just listen to this particular sample and we will do an exercise. So here it says no more than 2 words for each answer, which means my answer can just be 1 word or 2 words. If it happens to be a number, I will have to spell it. Okay, it says how to choose flooring materials. Source. There are some man-made materials like. So what would it be? Obviously, it's going to be a word and probably an example of what man-made of a certain man-made material. Correct? That could be an answer. But please don't assume that it's going to be a specific material. Please don't assume at all. Otherwise, you'll focus on what you've thought and you'll end up missing the actual answer. Just know, okay, it's going to be a word. Probably they're going to give us some example of a man-made material. Before being used, material undergoes dash. So it probably undergoes a certain process, a certain some activity happens on this material. So you need to focus on that and listen to what is it that happens on the material before it's being used. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I will play the audio clip a small one.
We've been talking about choosing building materials in the last week. Now, a great many factors influence the choice of building materials. You can't make a house of cards, right? And people who live in glass houses and all that. Anyhow, today I'd like to say a few words about flooring. Some artificial materials can be used, like plastic for instance, which offer mixed blessings when used as a flooring surface. On the one hand, plastic is cheaper than nearly any other alternative, short of bare ground. Plastic also does not warp like wood. On the other hand, the best that can be said about plastic is that it looks like wood or stone. However, it cannot replace the real materials. As I have mentioned, I'm fixing up a new house. The decorator my wife hired told me plastic does a great job of looking exactly like plastic. Besides, it scratches easily, fades or discolors, and starts cracking within a year or two. So, if you're fitting out a sleazy hotel or plan to live in a trailer park, go with the plastic. Really though, for all intents and purposes, this leaves us with wood or stone as choices for flooring. Stone and wood are alike in at least one respect. Both go through processing before they can be put to use. Since few of us cut our...
Alright, so the answers are plastic and processing. If you would have realized, there was a lot of different talk happening about plastic and wood than other materials also. But you need to be focused and wait till you get the answer. Okay, so just don't be in a hurry or just don't panic that did I miss out? Did I miss an answer? No, don't worry about that, but just completely focus and see what they're and listen to it. Listen to each and every word that they say. Clear? Another thing is there is a possibility where, you know, the audio in the audio clip, the person may lead you to a certain answer, but then say something else and that might change the answer. For example, they may say something like there are some materials that people use, usually wood. Some man-made materials that people use, which is plastic. So what happened here? They tell you they use a certain material, and then they change the whole statement and say no man-made material like plastic. So they may do that as well. So focus on the question. Focus on the audio clip and please listen, read and write at the same time. Clear? Any doubts, anybody? Okay, so what I'm going to do is, like yesterday, I'm going to share a sentence completion question type with you guys on the group, and then we'll go through the questions and then I will play the audio clip for you at my end, okay? If you have any questions at any point, please feel free to, Please feel free to ask me in the chat, okay? Just go through the questions while I share my screen and start playing the audio clip. Okay, let's quickly run through the questions. It says, how to choose flooring materials? And it says no more than 2 words for each answer. We've already done the first 2. It says, there are some man-made materials like before being used, material undergoes processing. Wood should be cut and dash, whatever the answer is. Stone should be cut and dash. So we know that they are anyway talking about plastic, wood and stone. Selection. Aside from environmental factors, one should take dash into account during construction. Some properties of materials affect mood such as dash, texture and color. Okay, we need to see what is that property over here, and then use a mathematical formula to choose the type of wood, because dash are subjective, which are ambiguous in verbal description. So you need to listen to the particular word where they're talking about a mathematical formula to choose wood. Okay, and obviously I've also added a table completion question type, so it's not just related to sentence completion. And for table completion, they say no more than 2 words and or a number, material and the reflectance rate. Polished silver, almost 1. White painted plastic, approximately what? So you need to find a number. Quarry tiles, approximately again a number. And dash, almost 0. So you need to find what is that material. Okay, you need to listen to that in the audio clip. Okay, yes. Let's begin. Let me play the audio clip for you all at my end.
We've been talking about choosing building materials in the last week. Now, a great many factors influence the choice of building materials. You can't make a house of cards, right? And people who live in glass houses and all that. Anyhow, today I'd like to say a few words about flooring. Some artificial materials can be used, like plastic for instance, which offer mixed blessings when used as a flooring surface. On the one hand, plastic is cheaper than nearly any other alternative, short of bare ground. Plastic also does not warp like wood. On the other hand, the best that can be said about plastic is that it looks like wood or stone. However, it cannot replace the real materials. As I have mentioned, I'm fixing up a new house. The decorator my wife hired told me plastic does a great job of looking exactly like plastic. Besides, it scratches easily, fades or discolors, and starts cracking within a year or two. So, if you're fitting out a sleazy hotel or plan to live in a trailer park, go with the plastic. Really though, for all intents and purposes, this leaves us with wood or stone as choices for flooring. Stone and wood are alike in at least one respect. Both go through processing before they can be put to use. Since few of us cut our own lumber or quarry our own stone, this is not perhaps a pressing concern. Still, do-it-yourselfers would do well to remember to buy only properly seasoned wood. Unseasoned wood warps, and a warped floor quickly becomes firewood, and its owner quickly becomes poorer. Likewise, except for dull-hued materials like slate or sandstone, most stone floors are polished before installation. The choice goes well beyond just wood or stone. Each type requires many further considerations. A few special remarks are called for when considering wood. For example, as always, aesthetics, personal taste and layout all play roles, as well as the type of house or room. Oh, and certainly don't forget the cost. When it comes to cost, a rule of thumb is that the softer and less exotic the wood, the lower the cost. In the US, for instance, pine is both ubiquitous and cheap. Mahogany is imported and exorbitantly expensive. If you're on any kind of budget when remodeling, it's really helpful to remember to go for the softer woods. Aside from cost, there are still lots of different factors that are important in choosing the best flooring for the job. Continuing with the example of wood, one must consider the effects of each type of wood on the mood of the room. When selecting the best wood to use, particular attention needs to be paid to its grain patterns, texture and colour. In rooms where relaxation or deep thought is the aim, say bedrooms or the study, dark, strong-grained woods are the rule. Here, the grain ought to match the furniture for a feeling of homogeneity. In rooms where activity and motion are typical, the dining room or living room, lighter, finer-grained lumber is more suitable. In such a setting, the wood grain might be useful in offering a contrast to the furniture. This leads to a feel of subconscious excitement in keeping with the room's function. In either case, though, consult a decorator. It is a decorator's job to know what materials to use to fit the function of the room. Though some things about putting together a room are subjective and based on one's individual taste, materials appropriate to a room's function are much more straightforward. A decorator takes the needs of the customer and uses a mathematical formula rather than subjective words. Since feelings vary from person to person, verbal descriptions of wood types tend to be ambiguous. You want the wood you select, not something approximate. And if you do decide to do it yourself, remember that all wood must be treated with preservatives to enhance its appearance and preserve its natural beauty. In the case of stone, or quarry tile, as flat-cut flooring stone is properly called, a new set of considerations must be weighed up. Simple colour aside, the degree of reflection must be kept in mind. This is called the reflectance rate, which is expressed in a number between 0.0 and 1.0, depending on the amount of light it reflects. At one end of the scale is polished silver. At a rating of 1.0, this shiny surface reflects nearly all of the light directed at it. Numbers closer to 0 describe materials that absorb more light. Moving down the scale a bit, we see that plastic that has been painted white has a rate of 0.8, which makes sense. We know that the colour white reflects all other colour, while black absorbs all colour, and plastic itself is a relatively reflective material. Materials that are denser and darker have reflectance rates much closer to 0. The quarry tile I mentioned a while ago has a rate of 0.1. As you may know, quarry tile is generally dark brown and made from clay, so it is quite dense. Of course, there is considerable variation among types of quarry tile because of the hue or treatment of the clay during its creation. Does anyone have any guesses as to what material may have a rate of almost 0.0? We can guess most of these materials are black in colour, but plastic, wood and even stone reflect some light. One material with a rate of almost 0.0 is black velvet. The texture produces almost no shine at all. Carrara marble, despite its white hue, is actually lower in reflectivity than black onyx. In any case, the fact that tiles vary somewhat should not be forgotten. A highly reflective floor would not be...
All right, everybody, I hope you were able to find the answers. Yes, there is a possibility that your audio clip may be as fast as this one, and the information flow will keep going. So you need to be extremely attentive. So from the beginning that I've been telling you, please be attentive. This is why I've been telling you that, okay? If you figured the answers, please drop it in the chat. We'll quickly discuss. Please share your answers in the chat. Okay. So a lot of, I know that there are two of you who have not been able to figure out the answers for third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, going through everyone's answers. Nidin, Dr. Rakshanda, Anila, Cheshma, Aparna, Dr. Leenu, please send in your answers. Okay, so it says wood should be cut because they talk about wood, you know, no problem. Understand that you may get an audio clip where it is where the person speaks really fast. Okay, so you've got to pay complete attention. It is possible, but it is it's doable. Okay, the more you practice, the better you get at it. All right. Okay, so the third answer is wood should be cut and seasoned. Okay. I know it did not come in one sentence itself. He talks about cutting wood and stone together, and then he says wood needs to be seasoned and stone must be polished. So wood should be cut and seasoned. Fourth answer is polished. Aside from environmental factors, one should take the cost into account during construction. So he mentions the cost, okay, in the same context. And he also talks about, some properties of materials affect moods, such as grain pattern. Correct? I think, yes, grain pattern. Some of you have got that. Texture and color. use a mathematical formula to choose the type of wood, because he says that words are subjective. It really doesn't care. Make sure it really is not going to be helpful. So please consider the mathematical formula. So the answer is because words are subjective. Okay. Here, reflectance rate. And another thing is there's a lot of explanation that happens around it in this particular audio clip. Polished silver is given, white painted plastic is 0.8. Quarry tile is 0.1. And the 10th answer, the material is black velvet. I think this portion was pretty simple because it was also very clear. I believe it's just majorly third, fourth, and probably fifth, third, fourth, and fifth answers, which were a little confusing for many of you. Okay, but have you understood how a sentence completion question type looks like? And have you understood that it's important to practice? Yes, no, maybe. Any doubts, any questions in sentence completion? All clear? Great. Okay. Remember, listening is simple. It's just that you need to practice. Okay. Now, so we've completed form completion, sentence completion, summary completion, and table completion. So completion question type as such, the chunk is over. Now we're going to move on to short answer questions. Okay. Yeah. Short answer questions is nothing but sentences or incomplete sentences which are projected in the form of questions. Again, you have instructions you need to follow, and listen to the audio carefully and make sure you pick up the right answer. Okay. Over here, and this is very similar to what we did even in reading. It's nothing very different. Only the difference is here you will listen to an audio clip, and in reading you have to go through a text. That's all. Here it says write only one word or a number. So my answer can just be one word, or it can just be a number. Okay, so let's look at the questions here. It says, of which city with skyscrapers Neil didn't think? Which means that probably this person Neil is going to be talking about some cities that have skyscrapers and hasn't mentioned or has forgotten to mention one particular city. Again, you don't have to guess it. It is going to be there in the audio clip. Okay. And then it says, which year did Neil choose? So probably they're talking about some years for something, 2000, 2001, like that year, okay, or 2021, like that. They are talking about something in the audio clip, and this particular person chooses a certain year. So you need to listen to what it is. And if it's like 2021, for example, they may say it like 2021. They may also say it like that. Okay, or let's say it's 1901. They may not say 1901. They may say 1901 or 1901. So not 00, everything means the same. Okay, I'm just going to play the sample for you, and then we'll go ahead and do a full length activity.
Hello, I'm Rob. Welcome to 6 Minute English. I'm joined today by Neil.
Hi there, Rob. Yes, I'm Neil.
Now, Neil, tell me, when you think of skyscrapers, the very tall, thin buildings, which cities do you think of?
Well, probably New York, Shanghai, perhaps Dubai.
Well, London is also the home to a growing number of skyscrapers, with nicknames like the Gherkin, the Walkie-Talkie, and the Cheese Grater. But not everyone likes them. Do you like them, Neil?
Well, I like the nicknames. I think they're really fun. And actually, I quite like the buildings too. They're quirky, which means unusual, odd, in a nice way.
Yeah, I agree. But today we'll be talking about why many people are unhappy about these new skyscrapers and learning some language about towns and buildings. But first,
a question, Rob.
Yeah, of course. For many years, the tallest building in London was St. Paul's Cathedral. But when was it built? Was it completed in A, 1508, B. 1608, or C. 1708?
Well, I think that it was C, 1708.
Okay, well, we'll find out if you're right or wrong.
Okay, so yeah, the first thing that he forgets to talk about is London. He says Shanghai, New York, and Dubai, but then the person who's probably taking an interview mentions London, okay? Says that he's forgotten to talk about London. And which year did Neil choose? He got 3 options and he said, hold on. Yeah, and then he says 1708, option C, 1708. So that's what you have to write. Okay, again, these are all questions for which you need to write answers based on the instruction. Is it clear, everyone? So again, what am I going to do? I'm going to share the short answer question document with you. I will share it on my screen and play the audio clip. Go through the questions, guys, while I share my screen. Okay. Just a second, please. Go through the questions meanwhile. Yeah. It says underwater living, only one word or a number again. How many days did the scientists spend under the waves? So you have to write how many days, the number, okay? What did Rob choose? So probably they're talking about something and Rob chooses something. You need to listen to what that is. I'm sure it's a word. What answer did Rob choose? What's the name of the lab? Again, it's going to be a word. Where's the lab situated? Again, it's going to be a word. A location. What is the world record in minutes for holding breath underwater? So you need to, here it will be mostly, not mostly, it will be a number here, obviously, because it says what is the world record in minutes. So the time, the duration, okay? I'm going to play the audio clip here at my end. Okay, so Aparna, these exact ones which I'm sharing with you are not present, but yes, there are practice tests available in Canvas for the same question types. There's no point if I probably share the same activities with you even on Canvas. It has to be different, right? Yeah. And please start practicing, guys.
Hello and welcome to 6 Minute English from BBC Learning English. I'm Rob and with me is Finn. Hello, Finn. Finn, are you okay?
49 seconds. I was just holding my breath,
Right.
Rob.
Okay, is this a new hobby of yours?
Well, actually, today we're talking about people living underwater. So I thought I could do with some practice.
Okay, well, why don't you get your breath back now?
Good, yes, good idea.
Today we'll be hearing about scientists who broke the world record for the time spent underwater. They spent an incredible 31 days under the waves. And we'll be learning some related vocabulary too. Right, are you ready now, Finn?
Yeah, I think so. And are you ready, Rob, for this week's question?
Yes, hit me with it.
This week's question is, what is the longest time a human being has held their breath underwater? Is it A, 12 minutes, B, 18 minutes, or C, 22 minutes?
Goodness. Well, it's a long duration, all of them. I'm going to go for the middle one, B, 18 minutes.
18 minutes, Good guess. I'll tell you if you're right or wrong at the end of the programme. But, Rob, don't hold your breath.
Ah, very good. Don't hold your breath. A phrase which means don't expect that a particular good thing will happen. Anyway, what about these scientists? did they hold their breath for 31 days?
No, but they did live underwater in a laboratory. Now, that's a room or building with scientific equipment in it for doing tests.
Right. Well, one of the men was Fabien Cousteau, who's an oceanographer, someone who studies the oceans. He's the grandson of Jacques Cousteau, a French man who held the previous record of 30 days underwater.
Fabien said he wanted to break his grandfather's record to raise awareness of ocean conservation. Now, that's protecting and looking after the ocean.
Well, he's raised our awareness, at least.
He has indeed.
Now, I'm interested in how they lived underwater. Listen to Fabien talking about the laboratory called Aquarius. Which word does he use to say that the lab is completely underwater?
Aquarius is very unique in that it's the only undersea marine laboratory. It gives us a unique platform from which to live and explore this final frontier on our planet.
He called it an undersea laboratory. Now, undersea is, as you might guess, a word similar to underwater, and it means under the sea.
And he called this undersea world the final frontier. It's an interesting phrase. It comes from the Star Trek television series, which called space the final frontier. The last place that humans have not yet travelled to, the last place to explore.
Yes, and apparently this laboratory was 18 metres under the sea in Florida, and being there allowed them to spend less time diving and more time observing marine life.
Okay, marine life, so that means of the sea. So marine life means sea life, plants and animals that live in the sea. They were particularly interested in investigating the effects of pollution on coral.
Now, I know they did this to raise awareness of marine conservation, but what I'm really interested in is what life was like for them. What was it like to live underwater for so long?
Good question. Well, surprisingly, perhaps, life there wasn't too bad. They had air conditioning, hot water and internet access.
Sounds very comfortable, doesn't it? Although I do know that Fabien struggled with one aspect. Now, listen to him to find out what.
Unfortunately for me as a French person, the food will also be simulated. Freeze-dried, astronaut type of food, canned foods, things like that. So it's a horror show for me.
Poor Fabien. He said the food was pretty awful. Maybe it was English food.
Probably. As a Frenchman, he wasn't impressed by the freeze-dried food. Now, that means food which is quickly frozen and dried to preserve it.
Yes, he thought it was astronaut-style food. The sort of food you would eat as an astronaut, someone who travels into space.
Now, and coming back to dry land, they had to spend 16 hours decompressing.
Yes, that's very important. Divers have to decompress to return to their original body pressure when they come out of the water.
It sounds like a long time to wait for a good meal. So, Rob, what do you think? Would you like to live underwater for a month?
Absolutely not.
No,
I would
not at
get
all.
very claustrophobic. I
Not
hate
even
those sort of spaces.
The astronaut food. So anyway, let's see if you got this week's question right. I asked you what you thought the world record for holding your breath for underwater was.
And I went for 18 minutes.
And actually, it was even longer than that.
Wow.
22 minutes, 0 seconds. By a chap called Stig Severinsen, who's from Denmark. And Stig was...
All right. I'm sure this one was quite simple. So why don't you all share your answers in the chat, and I will then talk about the correct answers. This was definitely straightforward. But please make sure you get your spellings right. Again, few of you have written 31 days, 18 minutes. The instruction is very clear. no more than one word or a number. Or, it's not and or a number. So obviously, if you write 31 days, it's incorrect, isn't it? Because you're writing one word and a number. Please focus on the instructions. Okay, so our first answer is how many days did the scientists spend under the waves? It's 31, 31. What answer did Rob choose? He chose option B. So just write B. You don't have to write 18 minutes because he says, I choose B. So just write B, that's enough. Okay, because if you just write 18, it makes no sense. You will have to write 18 minutes, but here the instruction is only one word or a number. So I can either write a word or a number. Be careful and focus. What's the name of the lab? Aquarius. Aquarius, not undersea. He says he calls underwater, Fabian calls underwater as undersea, but the name of the lab is Aquarius. Where's the lab situated? It's in Florida. And what is the world record in minutes for holding breath underwater? Here you can just write 22 because in the question itself they've mentioned the they've mentioned in minutes. So you don't really have to write 22 minutes, just write 22. Did you all understand? All of you? If you've made certain errors like writing 31 days and 18 minutes, did you understand why you're not supposed to write that? Okay, great. I'm going to give you guys a minute. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the chat, and then we'll move on to the next question type. 1 minute, guys. All right, all clear? Okay, great. Let's move on to the next question type, which is matching and classification, or match the following and classification. This is very simple. We've done it even as kids back in school, where you have two columns. You have to match the correct question with the correct answer. That's all. But one thing you need to know is in the 30 seconds time, make sure you look at or go through both the columns properly, because they will definitely use synonyms or they will definitely paraphrase. Okay, so be very, very careful and be focused. That's all. There are two kinds of match the following or classification. Okay, one which has more number of options than the questions, and the other one that has more number of questions than the options. We'll understand. Okay, so here it says, what is the responsibility of each of the following restaurant staff? Choose 4 answers from the box and write the correct letter A to F next to questions 7 to 10, which means your questions or what, you know, the things that you need to you need to match the restaurant staff with the responsibilities. And here we have only 4 restaurant staff. One is Joy Parkins, David Field, Dexter Wills, and Mike Smith. So there are just 4 questions, so to say. And here, if you look at the responsibilities, there are about 6 responsibilities. Only 4 staff and 6 responsibilities. And what are they saying? For each staff, there is one particular responsibility, which means there are more number of options than the questions. Are you getting it? Yes. So each person will have one specific responsibility only. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's quickly look at the responsibilities and then I will play the audio. It says training course, food stock, first aid, breakages, staff discounts, and timetables. All right. I'm going to share the audio clip.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Joy Parkins, and I'm the restaurant manager. And I understand...
Just a second.
Really minor, you must report to him, and he'll make sure.
Yeah, I'm going to play the audio clip. Please listen.
You'll find you don't have much chance to take it easy. When someone tells you to do something, you need to do it straight away. But at least we do have a job. One person whose name you must remember have a very efficient air conditioning system compared with some kitchens. Now, let me tell you about some of the people you need to know. So, as I said, I'm Joy Parkins, and I decide who does what during the day and how long they work for. I'll be trying to get you to work with as many different people in the kitchen as possible, so that you learn while you're on the job. One person whose name you must remember is David Field. If you injure yourself at all, even if it's really minor, you must report to him, and he'll make sure the incident is recorded and you get the appropriate treatment. He's trained to give basic treatment to staff himself, or he'll send you off somewhere else if necessary. Then there's Dexter Wills. He's the person you need to see if you smash a plate or something like that. Don't just leave it and hope no one will notice. It's really important to get things noted and replaced, or there could be problems later. And finally, there's Mike Smith. He's the member of staff who takes care of all the stores of perishables. So, if you notice we're getting low in flour or sugar or something, make sure you let him know so he can put in an order.
All right. So here, this person spoke about 4 people. Herself, that's Joy Parkins, David Wills, Dexter, and David Field, Dexter, and Mike. And she spoke about what they actually do. So Joy Parkins says that she's the one who decides what people need to do during the day. Okay, so the answer is F. Okay, so Joy Parkins decides everyone's timetables. David Field, she says, even if you have a minor injury, you must go to him and get a first aid. Very clear. So the answer, David Field, is C. Okay. Dexter Wills, she says, anything you break, be it a plate or anything you smash, you need to tell him no matter what. So the answer is D. Dexter Wills is D. And then Mike Smith looks after the stock, food stock, all the perishables. So the answer is B. All right. Is it clear, everyone? Great. All right. Now, so here you saw more number of options than the number of questions. Let's quickly do another one where if you look at it, you only have, okay, so basically you have 4 questions: cutlery and dishes, kettle, alarm clock, and CD player. And then you have only 3 options, okay? In emergency pack, in personal package, in storage with furniture. Where does the speaker decide to put items in? So there are 3 places. One is emergency pack, personal pack, and storage with furniture. And there are 4 items, which means there is a possibility of one particular location pack being repeated, okay? Because you have 4 items, but only 3 places where this person can put the items, okay? So your cutlery and dishes, there will be a repetition of this for sure. Is it clear? Yes? Yes, no, maybe. If it's clear, just drop it in the chat. Okay. Let me just play the audio clip, please.
Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Do you have any special requests? You know, things you want packed in some special place so you know where to find them.
Like what?
Oh, I don't know. Things like dishes, maybe. Not to be rude, but you look like a lady who likes to eat.
Ah, yes, I need my dishes and things where I can find them quickly.
Great. We'll put those dishes and cutlery in what we call the emergency pack. Can you think of anything else?
I do have an antique tea kettle my great-grandmother gave my mother. I wouldn't want to lose that. So I guess you'd better put that in storage with the furniture.
Grandma's tea kettle with the furniture. Got it. Say, how about things like your alarm clock? You don't want to miss your plane on the big day, right?
Well, you certainly think of everything. Yes, that's right. I'll also need my alarm clock where I can find it.
Fine, we'll put that in your personal package. And of course, we'll give you a list of where we pack everything. So all you'll have to do on Thursday the 14th is grab your luggage on your way out the door. I couldn't help noticing the new CD player you're carrying. Is that a Samsung?
Why, yes it is. One of their best. Cost me nearly $100, it did.
Do you want to take special care of it? I mean, it's brand new.
Take care of it, but nothing special. You can just put it in storage with the furniture.
That looks like everything we need here. I guess you're all set.
That was certainly quick. Thank you, young man. This has been a most moving experience.
Yes. So the answers are very simple and straightforward, but if you noticed, these options, one of it repeated, okay? So you need to understand, look at the questions, the number of options, the number of questions, and then be aware of what's going to happen, okay? So the answer, cutlery and dishes in emergency pack A, kettle in storage with furniture, alarm clock in personal package, and CD player. She says you don't really need to take special care. Just put it in the storage with furniture. Clear? So it's A, C, B, C. All right? Clear? Everyone? Great. Now, again, I'm going to share a match the following activity with you. We will practice one here in class, and then I'll give you about a quick 5-minute break, and whoever has doubts, we can do the doubt clearing session after this. Just a reminder, today's Friday, so we always have a doubt clearing session. Just a second. Let me share the questions with you guys. Activity. Please go through the questions. I will share my share the document and the audio clip. Okay. Let's quickly go through the questions. Again, it's a combination of table completion and match the following. Here it says presentation on film adaptations. Complete the table below. Write one word only. No number also. All right. Presentation on film adaptations of Shakespeare's play. Stages of presentation and work still to be done. So there are 2 columns. Introduce Gainety's book containing a dash of adaptations. Work still needs to be done is organize the notes. What the next stage of presentation? Ask class to suggest the dash adaptations. Work that needs to be done, no further work needed. That's clear. Present Rachel Malchow's idea. So what is the work that needs to be done? You have to fill in, prepare some dash. And then stages of presentation, you have discuss relationship between adaptation and dash at the time of making film. Okay, and this is only at the time of making film. So you need to discuss the relationship between adaptations and something. Here it says, what do the speakers say about each of the following film? Choose 6 answers from the box and write the correct letter A to G next to questions 5 to 10. So what are the films here? Ran, Much Ado About Nothing, Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Prospero's books, Looking for Richard. Okay, and here on the left-hand side, you have about 7 comments. The first one says, clearly shows the historical period, contains only parts of the play, is too similar to another kind of film, turned out to be unpopular with audiences, presents the play in a different period from the original, sets the original in a different country, incorporates a variety of art form. There are 6 films and you have about 7 options, which means 1 option is extra. Listen carefully and do it, okay? And please remember the instruction for table completion is write 1 word only. I'm going to play the audio at my end.
Joe, you know I'm giving a presentation in our film studies class next week?
Yes.
Well, could we discuss it? I could do with getting someone else's opinion.
Of course, Katie. What are you going to talk about?
It's about film adaptations of Shakespeare's plays. I've got very interested in all the different approaches that film directors take.
Uh-huh.
So I thought I'd start with Giannetti, who's a professor of film and literature, and in one of his books he came up with a straightforward classification of film adaptations based on how faithful they are to the original plays and novels.
Right.
I've already made some notes on that, so I just need to sort those out before the presentation. I thought that next I'd ask the class to come up with the worst examples of Shakespeare adaptations that they've seen, and to say why. That should be more fun than having their favourite versions.
Yes, I can certainly think of a couple.
Right. Next, I want to talk about Rachel Malco. I came across something on the internet about her work on film adaptations, and I was thinking of showing some film clips to illustrate her ideas.
Will you have enough time, though, both to prepare and during the presentation? After all, I doubt if you'll be able to find all the clips you want.
Perhaps you're right. OK, well, I'd better do some slides instead, saying how various films relate to what she says. That should encourage discussion. Next, I want to say something about how plays may be chosen for adaptation because they're concerned with issues of the time when the film is made.
You mean things like patriotism or the role of government?
Exactly. It's quite tricky, but I've got a few ideas I'd like to discuss. And finally, I want to talk about a few adaptations that I think illustrate a range of approaches and make some comments on them. Do you know the Japanese film Ran?
I haven't seen it. It was based on Shakespeare's King Lear, wasn't it?
That's right. It was a very loose adaptation, using the same situation and story, but moving it to 16th century Japan instead of 16th century Britain. So, for example, the king's daughters become sons, because in Japanese culture at that time, women couldn't succeed to the throne.
OK. I hope you're going to talk about the 1993 film of Much Ado About Nothing. I think that's one of the best Shakespeare films. It really brings the play to life, doesn't it?
Yes, I agree. And I think filming it in Italy, where the play is set, makes you see what life was like at the time of the play.
Absolutely. Right. What's next?
Next, I thought Romeo and Juliet, the 1996 film, which moves the action into the present day.
Yes, it worked really well, I thought, changing the 2 feuding families in the original to 2 competing business empires, even though they're speaking in the English of the original play.
You'd expect it would sound really bizarre, but I found I soon got used to it.
Me too.
Then I thought I'd include a real Hollywood film, one that's intended to appeal to a mass commercial audience.
There must be quite a number of those.
Yes, but I've picked the 1996 film of Hamlet. It included every line of the text, but it's more like a typical action hero movie. There are loads of special effects, but no unifying interpretation of the play.
All show and no substance.
Exactly. Then there's Prospero's books, based on The Tempest. That was really innovative from a stylistic point of view.
Didn't it include dance and singing and animation as well as live actors?
Yes, it did. I also want to mention Looking for Richard. Did you ever see it?
No, but I've read about it. It was a blend of a documentary with a few scenes from Richard III, wasn't it?
That's right. It's more a way of looking into how people nowadays connect with the playwright. The play is really just the starting point. And that'll be where I finish.
Well, it sounds as though it'll be very interesting.
All right, share your answers in the chat and then we can discuss. How did you all find it? Easy, tricky, confusing? Also put that in the chat, I'd like to know. You lost the audio, Vinod. I hope everybody else could hear it. The others, can you please confirm if you all heard the audio? Okay. Okay. Vinod, then you will have to check at your end because here also it was playing absolutely fine. Okay, match the following was tricky. So remember in match the following, when you get time, the 30 seconds time, you should go through each and every, comment or the options properly. What I will do just for this class, just for this particular class, I will play only match the following section. Okay, so do it. If you've already done it, you can check, but let's do it one more time and then we can close the session.
I want to talk about a few adaptations that I think illustrate a range of approaches and make some comments on them. Do you know the Japanese film Ran?
I haven't seen it. It was based on Shakespeare's King Lear, wasn't it?
That's right. It was a very loose adaptation, using the same situation and story, but moving it to 16th century Japan instead of 16th century Britain.
All right, so let's do it one by one, part by part. So Ran is actually, she says, an adaptation of King Lear, but the only difference was instead of the setting being 16th century Britain, they shifted it to Japan, 16th century Japan. So which option is talking about something about another country or setting it in another area? It's option F. Okay, yes. So the others are not talking about another country, another place. And here she specifically says 16th century. Even in Japan, it was 16th century. It's just that the places are different. Okay, so the answer is F for Ran. Next.
So, for example, the king's daughters become sons, because in Japanese culture at that time, women couldn't succeed to the throne.
OK, I hope you're going to talk about the 1993 film of Much Ado About Nothing. I think that's one of the best Shakespeare films. It really brings the play to life, doesn't it?
Yes, I agree. And I think filming it in Italy, where the play is set, makes you see what life was like at the time of the play.
Absolutely. Right.
So here, Much Ado About Nothing, they talk about how they, set it in Italy, and also helps you realize how the situation was, how the things were at the time. So answer is A, 6 is A, clearly shows the historical period. Let's move on and listen to Romeo and Juliet.
What's next?
Next, I thought Romeo and Juliet, the 1996 film, which moves the action into the present day.
Yes, it worked really well, I thought, changing the two feuding families.
So here, Romeo and Juliet, it's an old play but set in the present time. So it's totally in a different time period. And the answer is option E, presents the play in a different period from the original.
The original to two competing business empires, even though they're speaking in the English of the original play.
You'd expect it would sound really bizarre, but I found I soon got used to it.
Me too.
Then I thought I'd include a real Hollywood film, one that's intended to appeal to a mass commercial audience.
There must be quite a number of those.
Yes, but I've picked the 1996 film of Hamlet. It included every line of the text, but it's more like a typical action hero movie. There are loads of special effects, but no unifying interpretation of the play.
So Hamlet, not really something which they were very excited about, because it's very similar to an action film, something that more like a commercial film is what she says, action film. And it is not really close to the adaptation. So the answer is option C.
All show and no substance.
Exactly. Then there's Prospero's books, based on The Tempest. That was really innovative from a stylistic point of view.
Didn't it include dance and singing and animation as well as live actors?
Yes, it did.
So Prospero's book incorporates a variety of art forms, because then there was dance and music and whatever, and it was live. So the answer is G, okay?
I also want to mention Looking for Richard. Did you ever see it?
No, but I've read about it. It was a blend of a documentary with a few scenes from Richard III, wasn't it?
That's right. It's more a way of looking into how people nowadays connect with the playwright. The play is really just the starting point. And that'll be where I finish.
So here, Looking for Richard only contains some parts of the play, and the answer is B. All right. Everybody, did you understand? Yes, no, maybe. Please drop the answers in the chat. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap of today's session. Yeah. So we finished 3 more question types. That's sentence completion, short answers, and match the following, and match and classification. Sentence completion, again, and short answers, please focus on the instructions. Understand the context of the statements and the questions, and accordingly write your answers. All right, don't be in a hurry, and make sure you are writing absolutely based, ensuring that the instructions are completely followed. Match the following, again, every time you get that 30 seconds, you need to make sure you go through each and every option so that